Boruto is becoming the monster everyone fears, the one burdened with a power he never wanted, a fate he can't escape, and the future he's slowly realizing might end with him standing by himself. The karma seal, Momoshiki's presence, the warnings about his destiny, even the way the world is starting to turn against him, it's the same narrative shape that swallowed Eren in Attack on Titan. And the more these parallels line up, the isolation, the pressure, the prophecy, the enemy of the world setting that's being presented, the more clear it becomes. Boruto's ending might already be written, not because the manga said it outright, but because its structure is a mirror of the path that led to Eren's final choice. This all goes back to the clues buried in the panels, the character shifts, the narrative patterns, that all point to a chilling possibility. Boruto may be destined to become the very thing he's fighting against, a future that he himself created. This all clicked for me back in chapter 2 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, when Boruto first mentioned the horrors of the Ten Tails. We've known about the Ten Tails for many years, but this felt very different. Code reinforced it by explaining what the beast actually does. It devours everyone on instinct until the time they find an Otsutsuki. And the moment I read that line, something snapped into place. It wasn't hinting towards something from Naruto's lore, but more so about the Titans, the pure Titans, and how they devour every human in sight for one purpose, to find the Titan Shifter. Suddenly what Code said wasn't just a one-off sentence, it was more so a mirror. This is the foundation we have to build on. Before we get into Boruto manipulating the past or prescience or Koji withholding future details, we have to break down the deep structural similarities between the Ten Tails and that of the Titans. Because once you understand why these parallels exist, Boruto's entire future suddenly opens up in a way the manga hasn't spelled out as yet, but has been implying for many years. So let's start with Attack on Titan. Over 2,000 years ago, a slave named Ymir ran into the woods and fell into a tree. Inside that tree stood a spine-like parasite floating in the water. It attached to her, she gained the power of the Titans, and she used this power to serve King Fritz, bear his children, and create a lineage whose blood connection allowed the founding Titan's power to manipulate memories for centuries. Her descendants inherited pieces of her power in the form of the 9 Titans. Among the 9 Titans was the founding Titan, which had the ability to turn Eldians into mindless pure Titans. These Titans weren't just randomly attacking humans. Their instinctive purpose was to find a Titan Shifter, someone that carried the true power of Ymir's inheritance. Once they devoured such a person, they could regain humanity and become a Titan Shifter themselves. This structure of a mindless monster devouring indiscriminately but instinctively seeking a specific host is incredibly similar to Ko's description of the Ten Tails. The Ten Tails consumes everyone until it finds an Otsutsuki, and once it does, it evolves into a divine tree, essentially a perfect state, just like a pure Titan consuming a shifter evolves into a true Titan with consciousness. Boruto 2 Blue Vortex expands on this by introducing the Cloggrimes, who are literally Ten Tails derivatives that behave much like the Titans themselves. They devour humans, multiply endlessly, and select their evolutions based on who they consume. Jura, Hidari, Bug, and the others are essentially Titan variants. And this then brings us to the second major similarity, the mechanics behind memory manipulation. Attack on Titan uses the paths, Naruto uses chakra. Both are planet-wide networks that bind consciousness. In Attack on Titan, Eldians are linked because they share Ymir's bloodline. In Naruto, all humans share chakra because Hagoromo gave it to them, and Hagoromo himself carried Kaguya's chakra. This means every human is connected by a literal piece of Kaguya, just like every Eldian is connected by a piece of Ymir. And that connection is what makes large-scale memory manipulation possible. King Fritz used the Founding Titan to erase every Eldian's memory of the outside world. Ada used Omnipotence to rewrite the memories of everyone with chakra, switching Boruto and Kawaki's lives. Momoshiki literally spells it out. Every person's mind is connected through chakra, and the god can meddle with it if they so choose. This is a one-to-one mirror of Attack on Titan's subjects of Ymir can be manipulated by the founding titan. And then Momoshiki asks Boruto whether he has ever thought about how often a god might have manipulated humans' memories before. Now Boruto obviously hadn't, but we were supposed to as the audience. The line indirectly suggests that the world's history, at least referring to Naruto of course, may have already been warped by a previous user of this power, just like in Attack on Titan, where the aliens lived entire centuries under false memories. Once I understood this, I realized that Boruto's story isn't simply Naruto but with alien gods. It's a mythology where truths of the past have already been overwritten, and that opens the door for something very big. The idea that Boruto's present is being shaped by someone that already lived the future, which then brings us back to Koji. Koji's prescience lets him see multiple futures, but what's weird is how selective his knowledge is. In chapter 16, he somehow knew every detail about Boruto's Flying Thunder God, not just the technique itself, the reason Boruto created it, the weakness of the ability, and even how Ada would see their conversation and when she would see it. But when it came to simple things such as confirming if the Ten Tails was in Jigen's dimension, Koji suddenly needed verification. He also chose to attack Code on the same day the Ten Tails evolved into the Shinju, instead of a day before, even though he admits that time is running out and the evolution is close to happening. It's almost as if he wanted it to happen, which is very interesting. This inconsistency is important because it mirrors how Eren in Attack on Titan handled the ability of the Attack Titan. The Attack Titan can send memories into the past, but only to previous users of the Attack Titan. Eren Kruger received memories from Eren Yeager, even though Eren wasn't born yet. Grisha received memories from future Eren, which prompted him to massacre the Reese family. And Eren himself inherited those memories by looking into his father's past. Eren didn't have access to the full future. He only saw selected scenes, just the ones future Eren wanted him to see. And future Eren was manipulating the past while knowing how the present Eren would interpret those memories. Prescience in Boruto works similarly. Koji doesn't see the full timeline. He only sees the timelines that have been shaped in a certain direction. And the level of detail he knows about Boruto's abilities versus what he claims to not know suggests he's not the original source of the future knowledge, which leads to the clearest parallel between both series. A future Boruto may be doing exactly what future Eren did. In Attack on Titan, future Eren fed selective memories to past inheritors of the Attack Titan to create the future he needed. He couldn't send the memories to his past self, so he sent them to the people whose memories would eventually be shown to him. Now imagine this in Boruto's world. A future Boruto having lived through the worst possible timeline, the Ten Tails Ascension, planetary extinction, the fall of the village, Kawaki's betrayal, maybe even the loss of Himawari, looks back at his timeline and makes a choice. Using omnipotence, prescience, or some Otsutsuki level version of timeline manipulation, he selectively sends information back into the past. Not to himself, because maybe he can't, similar to Eren. Instead he gives it to Koji, someone he trusts but also someone who can act without revealing everything. This explains why Koji knows some information with perfect detail and other information not at all. Future Boruto only gives him the pieces he needed to keep his timeline on track. This also lines up with Koji receiving updates like care packages. He isn't able to peer into the future whenever he wants to. Coincidentally, his last update came after it was impossible for him to intervene in the changes present time Boruto made, despite those changes being initiated days before the actual battle took place. Yet the ability waited up until the exact moment when Kawaki arrived on the battlefield to save Boruto to then inform Koji of this change, despite requiring multiple changes to the timeline to even get to this point in the first place. This isn't a coincidence. Koji's prescience allows him to see multiple timeline branches, but it isn't omniscient, and it also relies on the cells of Shibai Otsutsuki. It is possible that future Boruto could hijack this connection if the theory that Boruto becomes Shibai bears true. So while Koji believes he is the player moving the pieces, he's actually a piece being moved by the king, that being future Boruto, similar to what took place in Attack on Titan. Now, there's also another potential similarity as well, which is that just like Eren's endgame required the rumbling to happen, Boruto's endgame may require him to fight Kawaki on the Okage monument. So everything Boruto tried to avoid might end up needing to take place. Maybe the Ten Tails needed to evolve into the Shinju. Maybe Jura needed to target Himawari. Maybe Kawaki needed to harden his ideology. Maybe the village had to fall into this crisis. Boruto may already know this because he has lived through multiple versions of the future. The way Eren experienced future memories that forced him into becoming the catalyst of the world's destruction and basically its rebirth. I mean, look at AOT's finale. Eren erased the Titan curse. He wiped out the power system at the core of the world. Boruto's story hints at something similar. Kawaki declares the age of shinobi is over, but Boruto's existence is directly tied to the Otsutsuki. If Boruto or let's say Kawaki find some way to end the cycle of the Otsutsuki, chakra itself might be altered forever, just like Eren ending the curse of Hymir. And by the way, Kawaki said this back in chapter 1 of the Boruto manga, long before AOT ended. So it's not like AOT's influencing Boruto. If anything, both were exploring the same thematic territory at the same time. So what does all of this mean for the ending of Boruto? It means Boruto may become something similar to Eren, a tragic necessity, someone who carries the weight of knowing multiple futures, someone who must allow terrible events to unfold because preventing them makes the outcome worse, someone who shapes the new world by being the last person that remembers the old one. Boruto might be the architect of his own timeline, not because he wants to, but because he has to. The parallels between the Ten Tails and the Titans, between the pathways and chakra networks, between the memory manipulation and omnipotence, between future manipulation and prescience, between Boruto and Eren, between Grisha and Koji, between Mikasa and Sarada, all of these parallels point toward a narrative structure where Boruto becomes a singularity that stands outside fate itself, someone who guides the timeline from both the present and the future. And if that's the case, the ending of Boruto won't be a simple victory. It won't be a final battle where the hero triumphs and returns home. It will be a bittersweet story, a bittersweet resolution where Boruto ends the cycle of the Otsutsuki, removes the power that has plagued humanity for 1,000 years, and gives the world a chance to start over without chakra-based gods rewriting their memories. Just like Eren stopped the Titan curse to give his world a chance, Boruto may end the chakra to give his world a chance as well. And everything happening in Tubu Vortex, Himawari's awakening, Kawaki's isolation, the evolution of the Shinju, Koji's selective future knowledge, the village's collapse might be exactly what's needed to happen for Boruto to reach that point. It's not a prophecy, it's a design. Because the future Boruto has lived through the worst timeline, and now he's doing what Eren did, sending messages back to the past, nudging events, shaping outcomes, pushing the present version of himself down a path he doesn't enjoy but ultimately accepts. So by the end of this manga, Boruto might not just be a victim of omnipotence, he might become the one who uses it, not to rule the world, not to change memories, but to end the system entirely. And with that, the story that once looked like a sequel to Naruto will reveal itself as something much closer to the structure of Attack on Titan. A story about cycles, freedom, memory, fate, and the cost of being the only person who can see the ending. That is what the story seems to be building towards, and that's why Boruto's future might already be written. Not by fate itself or some omnipotent being, but by himself. With that said, that is it for the video. If you guys liked it, drop a like. If you're new, consider becoming a member and also subscribing to the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.